In this video, we're going to look at a situation where we may have to combine a VLOOKUP and if function. So looking at the data on the left, I have our customers and they're buying airline tickets with a particular class, either business or coach. I want to return the price of their ticket based on this table in black. So if they bought an Alaska Airline business ticket, it's going to be $350. If they bought a coach ticket from Alaska, it's $250, right? And I have a different price between business and coach for each of the different airlines. So right here, I want to return one of those two numbers. Well, how can I do it? Obviously, first, I need to return or look up the fact that this customer bought an Alaska ticket. So, okay, I can use VLOOKUP. I can look up that value, Alaska, run over to this table and find it. Here it is. But then, if you remember, VLOOKUP has a column index number. Do I return column 2 or do I return column 3? And it could vary. So in this case, it was Alaska business, but down here it's Alaska coach. How do I tell VLOOKUP whether to return column 1 or column 2? So there's two ways to do this, and I'll first do it the long way, and then I'll show you the shorter way. The longer way would be to start with an if. And what I'm going to do is ask whether the class is business, in which case I'm going to do a whole VLOOKUP where I return column 2. And if it's not business, if it's coach, then I'm going to do a whole VLOOKUP where I return column 3. So it's a lot of typing, but this does work. I'm going to look up the class. Is that class, or I shouldn't say look up the class, it's going to be part of my logical test. I'm going to say if that equals, and I have to put it in quotes because it's a piece of text, is D2 equal business? If that's true, I'm going to do a VLOOKUP, parenthesis. What am I going to look up? I need to know what airline they're on. They're on Alaska. Where am I going to look that up at? Right here in this table. And I'm now going to hit F4 to lock my table array. And what column am I going to use? Well, because we've said it's business, and that's what we're going to do if it's true, the column will be 2. And does it need to be an exact match? Yes. So I have to type the word false. And that closes up my VLOOKUP, that parenthesis right there. So my value of true on this if statement is this VLOOKUP. So now, comma, well, what if it's not business? Because in this example, I only have two choices, business or coach. Well, if it's not business, then it must be coach. So basically, I can do another VLOOKUP. So I'll go ahead and type it. I could have copied and pasted, but my lookup value is still Alaska, comma, my lookup range is the same range, and don't forget to lock it with the F4 key, comma. But this time, because it's not business, it must be coach. Well, then my return column is 3, comma, and it needs to be an exact match. And so I close up the VLOOKUP with one parenthesis, and notice they're color-coded red to red. And then I put another parenthesis, black here to close up the if statement. So that does it. Alaska business is $350. If I copy this down, Alaska coach is $250. Now, when you do a VLOOKUP, by the way, if you ever see NA, that means the VLOOKUP can't find the value. And so now that I notice this is spelled American and this is America. So if I put that N in on America, now all of a sudden that American finds the price. America business is $525. Basically, one more time, let's start with an if statement. I ask if it's business or coach. Does it equal business? Then I VLOOKUP with a 2, comma, VLOOKUP with a 3. One way of doing it, it works. It's a lot of typing. Now, let me show you the other way. I'll go ahead and delete all these. We'll start over. We'll type equal. This time, we're going to start with the VLOOKUP. I want to look up what airline I'm on. So let's say I'm going to look up C2. That value is Alaska. Where am I going to look? Same spot right there. F4 to lock in my table array. Put in a comma. Well, which column is it going to be? 2 or 3? Here's where I can put my if statement inside the VLOOKUP. I can go if. Now, what's my test? Same one. Does that cell equal, and in quotes, business? In quotes. It's not case sensitive, so I don't have to capitalize the B. It probably is not a bad idea to do it, but does D2 equal business? If it equals a business, I want this if statement to return a 2 because that's the column. If it doesn't equal business, then I want this if statement to return a 3. Okay, so now if you get into my column index number of the VLOOKUP function, right here, what column do I want to return? Well, if it's business, 2, otherwise 3. So this if function that's currently selected is going to return either a 2 or a 3, and that's exactly what the column index number wants. So now I can put comma and type the word false that I need an exact match. So I hit enter, and we're good to go. I get Alaska business is $3.50, drag it down. I should fill without formatting. Anyway, now you get all the proper dollar values, and either way works. This way is just a little less typing. Let's do one more example of that. We'll move to another sheet called employee data, and what I want to do is calculate the health premium. And what's going to make this a little bit tricky is the health premium is based first on what health plan did they choose over here in column L, and whether or not they're a full-time or part-time employee. Full-time employees will pay a different premium for that plan than a part-time employee. And that data is over here in the lookup tables. So right here I have the various plans and the different rates depending on full or part-time. So it's very similar to the last one. So we'll just put in the premium right here. And now I need to figure out how to bring back premium here in the lookup table based on the plan and whether they're full-time or part-time. So running to employee data, I could do it two ways. I could either go if they're full-time, I'm going to do a VLOOKUP that returns column 2. If they're part-time, I'll do a VLOOKUP that returns column 3. But the shorter way of doing it is to put the if statement inside the VLOOKUP. So in other words, I'm going to do a VLOOKUP and I need to know what plan are they on. So this guy's on HMOF. Cool. Comma. Where am I going to go look for that? So I run over to lookup tables and I just grab all of that range. And notice it comes in with some words here. That's because this is a named range. And now I don't have to absolute that because the named range is already absolute. It's locked. Now the column index number. Let's run back to employee data. It puts in the sheet name when you do that, and we really don't need it here. So I'll just eliminate that and type the word if, because here's where we have to decide, do I want column 2 or 3? And that's what if statements do. They'll do a test and they'll return one thing or another. So in this case, my test is on their job status. Does that person need to be full-time? Because we bounce between sheets, it's still putting in the sheet name, which is okay. I am going to get rid of it only because it makes the formula a little long to read. But I'm going to say if G2 equal, and in quotes, FT, because you're talking about text, text needs to be in quotes. So if G2 equal FT, then what do we want to return? Well, that represents column 2 in that previous lookup table. Otherwise, if you only have two choices, which in this example we do, full-time, part-time, otherwise we're going to return column 3 for the part-time person. I close up the if, so notice the red parentheses. And by the way, that's my column index number. It's either going to be a 2 or a 3. And then finally, the range lookup in this case has to be an exact match. HMOF needs to match HMOF. So I put in a parenthesis to close up the VLOOKUP, hit enter, and now it's returning a $1,500 premium for full-time HMOF, and that seems to make sense. If we drag that formula down to our first part-time employee down here, so he is on a PPOF part-time, and we're coming up with $1,250. So PPOF part-time is coming up with $1,250. So that's how to use a combination of VLOOKUP and if to solve a problem. And it's very often where you're using a VLOOKUP to return something, but you have more choice in what column to return. And so I can use an if statement for that column index number parameter on the VLOOKUP.